if I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 10. I'd probably give it a 10. Hey guys, I just got back from the second time watching Blade Runner 2049, and I usually don't make reviews or things like that. I wait and try and give it time so that I can do like a critique and really analyze and go in depth on things as best I can. I'm always, trying to improve that sort of thing. But goddamn, this fucking movie, it's the best movie of the year. In my opinion, it is that good. It's just incredible in every conceivable way. I can't pick a flaw. The worst I've heard people say about it is that it's slow. And I guess some could go on to then say boring. I disagree with both of those things. Actually, no, I don't disagree with slow. I definitely disagree with boring, but of course usually when people complain about something being slow, it's because the slowness bored them a little bit. I was never bored. So I saw the original Blade Runner and then this new one on the same day. For the first time on the same day. I hadn't seen Blade Runner before last Sunday, and then I saw it again just this Sunday, a week later. And it was just as good the second time. Maybe even better, because I could just soak it all in again even more. Oh my god. So it was me, Guy, and Niall, and we just all hung out because none of us had actually seen Blade Runner before, I don't think. And we really enjoyed it. It's not necessarily the sort of films like get the lads around and fucking, have a laugh with a film. It's a little philosophical. It's also very slow. It's noir. It's great, and it still holds up so fantastically well, even in the visuals. I mean, the visuals are obviously spectacular, but it's just amazing how well the special effects even still hold up. I'd argue even more so than something like Star Wars Episode 4. I think probably the darkness helps out with that a lot. I mean, the entire film is just set at night with rain, so that can kind of disguise maybe some messiness that would be there if it was stark daylight and you had all these effects. And it's an ingenious way of disguising it. It's brilliant. It's something that this film doesn't have to do, the new one. God, for its time, like, what a revelation. But that also means I don't have any nostalgia for it, so I do actually like the new one more. I like Blade Runner 2049 quite a bit more than the original. Now, I did adore the original. In some ways, the funny thing is, when people are saying that the new one is slow, I felt the old one was slower. I felt it was more slowly paced, and it just felt slower overall, yet it's about an hour shorter, because I think it's an hour 45, thereabouts. We saw the final cut version, by the way. We didn't see the theatrical one with all the bullshit narration, which I guess would make it feel a bit less slow, but also ruins Ridley Scott's vision of the film, unfortunately. It was a great film. My only thing was that I didn't fully believe like the romance with Deckard and Rachel. It felt a little forced. I think that was kind of part of the idea, though, is that it's really sad. He's really sad and desperate for some sort of connection. But obviously it comes off as very like, whoa, dude, it's a little rapey. Which is funny because I actually believe that whole relationship more so in the new one, without spoiling anything. I just believe the existence of that relationship and that they cared for one another a lot more in the new one, which is an interesting thing, and just kind of as a testament to how well the new one does everything. I don't want to spoil anything because I want you to go and see it. Give this film money because it really needs it, because it's not doing well in the box office. Please give it money. Denis Villeneuve, it just doesn't make bad films. He doesn't make bad films, and the cinematographer doesn't seem to do bad cinematography. I believe he did Arrival and Sicario as well, along with Denis Villeneuve. Who, like, if you want to go and watch his backlog, then sure, watch Enemy, Prisoners, which is the only one of his I haven't seen. I need to. Sicario, which I thought was possibly his weakest, but still a fantastic film. Just not quite as memorable. Arrival, one of the best films of last year, and now Blade Runner 2049. Somehow they managed to make a sequel so many years later and have it feel like a sequel, and it doesn't feel like it's sequel baiting. It's not like we're gonna set up this franchise. It's just a beautiful film in and of itself. Like, even if you haven't seen the original, you could probably go in and kind of enjoy it, but nowhere near as much. As well as watching the original that day, we watched the 2 live-action shorts that they've put on YouTube. Check those out if you haven't. One's focused on Batista's character, and one's focused on Jared Leto's character. And then also Blade Runner 2022 Blackout, because it's a 15-minute anime short by Watanabe, who is the director of The Animatrix, Cowboy Bebop, one of my all-time favourite animes, Samurai Champloo, Kids on the Slope, Space Dandy. The man's a fucking legend. And to hear Denis Villeneuve being like, I really respect Watanabe's, I don't know, that's not his that's not at all his voice. Don't. He's got a much nicer voice. But just to hear him say that he respects Watanabe's work, I'm like, god damn, man, can you get any cooler as a director? Because it's just incredible. So the film, as I'm sure you all already know, looks visually stunning. It's one of the most beautiful films that you're just ever going to see, ever. From cinematography, from the live set, like the live action sets that they've built, to the special effects, which are just, they're so good. I just can't pick a flaw with them. There was never anything where I was like, that looks really CG and out of place. There was nothing like that. It's just phenomenal in every way. And that's what this film is going to get praised for so much. But I think the story deserves praise. Is it the most mind-blowing thing ever? No, not really. But I actually think it's better than the original, because I just think that this story has more layers, explores the whole idea of being a replicant, and what it means to be human and all of that, in a much deeper and more interesting way, and that's what just kept me grabbed, as well as the obviously incredible visuals. That's the thing, even when it's being so slow, and maybe you think not much is going on, at least it's great to look at, right? At least it just looks incredible, just better than basically anything you'll see all year. Yeah, it's fantastic in every sense of the word. The acting is impeccable. Ryan Gosling doesn't seem to give bad performances. You give him a character, he fucking nails it every time. The guy he's so good. He shows emotion when it's needed, so this is going to get into minor spoilers. Okay, so it's not spoilers, because they're things that you'll know within the first 5 minutes. Yeah, it's not like any huge twist. I would never spoil anything like that. So, Ryan Gosling is a replicant. You find that out very quickly, it's very clear. It's not a mystery, is he a replicant, is he not? And because of that, his performance is a little more layered and has more intricacies to it, I feel. There are times when something might be happening and any normal human would react in a certain way, but because he's a replicant, he reacts in a different way, like more calm. Like at first maybe glance at that and be like, that's not great acting, he doesn't seem to be concerned about the situation, and it's like, but that's part of his character and it's part of him being a replicant. But then there are certain things which might get to him for very good reasons, and then you start to see that emotion come through, and it's played just wonderfully. It is so good. Speaking of being played wonderfully, that soundtrack is... Is it better than the original? That would be one of the only things I would say, maybe not quite as good or memorable as the original, because the originals is just, I mean, like the movie itself, but I think that's one of the standouts, along with the visuals, is the soundtrack of the original is impeccable. It's just so memorable and sticks in your head, and it's got such a nice variety. I'd say maybe this one has a little less variety. It does a good job paying homage, much like the entire film, paying homage to the original while being its own thing. A bit darker, a bit bassier, which, especially nowadays, especially if you've listened to a lot of Hans Zimmer tracks, soundtracks that is, then you'll kind of pick up on, like, this is Hans Zimmer, right? But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It still always fit the movie and just set the atmosphere perfectly along with everything else. It's so good. It's one of the few movie soundtracks I actually I listened to afterwards along with the original. So yeah, back to the acting though. Harrison Ford, like, just A really good performance. I didn't expect such a good performance from Harrison Ford, because in episode 7, I was fine with his performance. Some people said it was terrible. I didn't think it was terrible, but there was some, you could kind of tell he wasn't giving it his all. He isn't as invested in the Star Wars franchise as he is clearly in the Blade Runner franchise, because in this, I don't know if it was just that he was given more opportunity and better directed, I don't know, to give this performance, but god damn, it blows almost everything else he's done that I've seen out of the water. Because to me, Harrison Ford has always been a very fun actor, very cheesy in parts, and kind of over the top, not too much subtlety to him, which is fun to watch, especially when it's something like Star Wars or Indiana Jones. That's totally fine. He's not too over the top, obviously, in the original, because he's just very straight edge cop. Even then, you know, when he's trying to do things, he's just kind of very blunt about it, kind of one note. But in this, he just has so much subtlety to his performance that I've not seen him doing basically anything else, that it blew me away, really. There was just some scenes where I was like, holy shit, this guy's fucking acting. He's not just getting a paycheck, he is invested in this world and this character just as much as the team surrounding him. And it was great to see. It was so nice to see Harrison Ford do such a fantastic job, like arguably better than he was even in the original. Just like everything else, really, to me. Because I know, obviously, there's a lot of limitations with the original, and they worked with those, but then removing those. So the original is just a lot of dark, as I said, night, rain. This gets to jump around to different locations, and they're not all dark and rainy. They're striking orange, striking like kind of grey, white, which sounds boring, but just looks so mesmerizing when shot as beautifully as it is, with so many just interesting little details. So the last like kind of thing I'll tell you about the film, and if this doesn't make you go and see it, I don't know what will. At least if you're the kind of moviegoer, I don't know, that I am. So there's a hologram character in the film, and there's a part where she walks out into rain, and you know, she's a hologram. So I think a lot of movies would probably go for the rain just goes through her because she's a hologram, right? Or she's drenched because the hologram knows what to do, right? Now this, she goes out, it's going through, but then there's a close-up of her hand, and it shows her hand model updating to be wet, to be what like the rain would look like if it was falling onto a hand, but you don't actually see. It's so fucking good. It's so like subtle, because if you actually pay attention, there's, I don't believe like an actual drop of rain hits her hand. It all goes through, but then you just kind of see raindrops appear on her hand. And it's just like, holy, they didn't need to do that. That must have taken so much more effort to do than just, hey, she's updated to have a wet model now. To show that developing is just an insane amount of attention to detail that really adds to the believability of the world in a way that so many films just kind of lack. And that attention to detail is there in every scene. And there's just, it's so good. It's so good. And I think the reason why people might say it's slow is because maybe it runs out of those types of moments after like halfway through or something. By that point, the acting and the story and just still the whole look of it was enough to keep me invested, and I adored just every moment of it. Both times. The first time I saw it in IMAX, which a film that looks that good and has a soundtrack that bassy, and of course the guns are just as punchy as they are in the original. That was one of the things that really stood out to me in the original. Was like, whoa, this fucking pistol is like a bass cannon, basically. It's insanely powerful sounding, and they kept that for this, and it was, oh, it's so good. It's an incredible film. Absolute masterpiece. I would, if I had to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 10. I'd probably give it a 10. You can, like, purely subjectively, I'm sure there are some things that people might not like about it. They might not like how slow it is. But I can't express enough how much I respect the film for doing what it did. It could have just been an action film. It could have been, we're going to reboot Blade Runner, it's going to be really action heavy because we need to keep the millennials' attention, because everybody has fucking ADHD these days. They need shit going on right now. But this film never rushes itself. It never is like, okay, we got to get through this scene and make this plot point and just get to another one. It never feels in a rush to get from the scene that it's in to get to the next. So it's like, let's just take some time. And the time is well worth taking to see it. So please consider it. Please just go and see it. It's worth it. Watch the original, the final cut version, and then watch this. Because even if you're not a huge fan of the original, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I thought I was. I thought I was going to like fall in love with it. But no, it was the new one that I did. And I've heard people say that they got from this what everybody else seemed to get from the original. So yeah, if you're kind of like that and the original isn't massively appealing to you, the new one might. I think there's enough new stuff there and explored. Yeah, it pays enough respect, but doesn't lean on the original too much in any way, that it's worth checking out. Go watch Blade Runner 2049. You probably won't regret it.